You can only imagine how much money just disappeared from parlays because of this match. Cabo Verde's goalkeeper, Vozinha, had around 50,000 followers on Instagram before kickoff. By the time he left the pitch, he not only had the Man of the Match award in his hands, but also 2.2 million followers online. And that was at the time of recording. By the time this video goes live, that number is probably going to be even crazier. 2.2 million people is more than 4 times the entire population of Cabo Verde. The stadium they played in could hold roughly 14% of the country's population. And somehow, in their very first World Cup match ever, Cabo Verde managed to hold Spain, arguably the best team in Europe and one of the favorites to win the 2026 World Cup, to a draw. That right there is the magic of the World Cup. Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back. I genuinely don't think people fully understand how massive this result really is. Curaçao made their World Cup debut against Germany and got demolished 7-1. Honestly, the whole of Brazil probably watched that game and felt like they finally had someone they could relate to. To be fair though, I actually thought Curaçao played pretty well for the opening 30 minutes or so. But eventually the pressure became too much and they just got overwhelmed. Even then, there was absolutely no shame in that result. If anything, there was still plenty for them to be proud of. But that kind of scoreline was supposed to happen to Cabo Verde against Spain. That was the expectation coming into this game. Instead, the match ended with Cabo Verde technically remaining unbeaten in World Cup history. At least for now. So yeah, let's talk about this match, shall we? And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do that. We're getting really close to 400,000 subscribers, and that's going to be a huge moment. Cabo Verde are actually a very solid football side. Back in 2023, they made a strong run to the AFCON quarterfinals. I still remember the game against South Africa. They lost on penalties, but throughout that tournament they showed incredible discipline and a real ability to stick to their game plan. But doing that in AFCON and then doing it on the World Cup stage against Spain are two completely different challenges. And yes, Spain rotated heavily and were basically playing a B team. But let's be honest here. If you compare the squads man for man, Spain's side was worth hundreds of millions. You can't say the same for Cabo Verde. Everyone already knew how this game was expected to look. Spain finished with 27 shots compared to Cabo Verde's 6. Spain also dominated possession with 74% of the ball. Cabo Verde spent most of the match defending and trying to survive. But the way they managed to survive was honestly incredible. And by the way, Cabo Verde committed just one foul during the entire match. One foul. Seriously, take a second to think about how insane that is. If you watched the game and saw how much pressure they were under, you'll understand just how impressive that stat really is. And going back to Spain playing their B side, there just wasn't enough creativity in attack. They kept trying the same ball in the first half, whether it was Pedri or Rodri clipping it over to Cucurella on the left side, hoping he could cut it back into the box for someone arriving late. But that final connection never really came. Either nobody was there, or Cabo Verde managed to shut it down every single time. Even with all of that, throughout the entire match, I kept thinking that it would only take one single moment for Spain to break through, and once that happened, all of Cabo Verde's defensive confidence would disappear instantly. I kept waiting for Spain to finally have that breakthrough moment for basically the entire match, but it just never arrived. Around the 67th minute, there was another hydration break, which honestly still feels a little strange to me considering the stadium had air conditioning. I even checked the weather in Atlanta during the match, and it was around 25 degrees, so I'm not really sure how necessary it was. But anyway, everybody probably has their own opinion on that. Around that point in the game, I remember thinking that Luis de la Fuente needed to stop messing around and bring on the main guys, because it genuinely felt like Spain had taken these points for granted. This is the World Cup group stage. You only get 3 matches, there's no room to casually assume a result is guaranteed. But I think Spain believed this game was already handled, and honestly, most people probably felt the same way. But that's when De La Fuente finally turned to the bench and brought on Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams, Dani Olmo, Mikel Merino, basically all the big names. I said this before the tournament in my predictions video, and I still don't think it's a controversial opinion at all because a lot of people felt the same way. I wasn't fully convinced by Spain's attack heading into this World Cup, and it's not because the players aren't talented. Everyone knows they've got incredible quality. My concern was more about fitness. Players like Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, the ones who really make things happen in the final third and did exactly that during the Euros 2 years ago. Both came into this tournament carrying injuries. So there was always uncertainty around what kind of condition they'd actually be in. That probably explains why both of them started on the bench here. Either that, or maybe De La Fuente underestimated Cabo Verde. Because Dani Olmo and Mikel Merino didn't start either. Merino, by the way, was also dealing with injury issues coming into the competition. Either way, Spain ended up paying for it. As expected, they simply don't have many players outside of those starters who can offer the same threat out wide or in attacking areas. And Cabo Verde nearly stole the whole thing at the death. Their only shot on target came in the 91st minute. It was a header that, if it had gone just slightly to either side of Unai Simon, we'd be talking about a completely different result right now and seeing completely different headlines everywhere. But I guess the football gods decided they'd already given us enough chaos for one night. They gave us a massive upset, but they weren't quite willing to take it that far. And honestly, I understand it. We already got one huge shock result. Asking for even more might have been too much. As for the player of the match, it had to be Vozinha. 7 saves. An absolutely unbelievable performance. Honestly, it might go down as the greatest performance ever produced by someone wearing the Cabo Verde national team shirt. And I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if that remained true forever. Some of the saves he made had no business being possible. I also struggled to single out a worst performer from this Cabo Verde side because the game plan was so obvious and everyone executed it. Sure, if you check the stat sheets and ratings online, a lot of these players probably won't look great because they offered very little going forward, but I honestly don't think they'll care about that whatsoever. Even when they managed to break forward, they didn't quite have the technical quality to connect passes or create real attacking moves. But again, that probably wasn't even their priority. Their striker, Dylan Livramento, kept trying shots from around the halfway line. I assume he was hoping to catch Unai Simon off his line, except Unai Simon was never really positioned that far forward any of the times he attempted it. To me, it felt more like Livramento simply didn't want to drift too far away from his own half, because in a game like this, his role as a striker wasn't really about scoring goals. Spain, despite all the possession and all the star power on the pitch, just couldn't break this team down. And honestly, there's something really special about the World Cup when you watch a squad full of players most people barely know go toe-to-toe with some of the biggest names in football and come out on top mentally. That's exactly what happened here. Pedri never really managed to control the game the way he usually does. Rodri couldn't dictate things either. Fabian Ruiz kept sending efforts over the bar and never truly settled into the match. Mikel Oyarzabal had a bizarre game as well. I was reading a stat earlier, and it's honestly ridiculous if true, that during the first 30 minutes he became the first player since 1966 to not register a single touch of the ball in a World Cup match. How does that even happen when your team finishes with 74% possession? Now, I'm just going to trust the stat because they put it on a fancy graphic and everything, but I do remember him getting involved in the second half, so maybe I just completely missed him in the first. Gavi also had a strange performance. I honestly don't even know how to evaluate it. He worked hard, pressed constantly, recovered the ball multiple times, and never stopped running. But he's not really a winger, and he's also not quite a striker either, even though he's wearing the number 9. It just felt a little awkward positionally. At the end of the day, though, this is a terrible 2 points dropped for Spain. They absolutely should have won this game. And while I'm recording this, I've also got the Saudi Arabia versus Uruguay game on another screen, and Saudi Arabia are currently leading 1-0. By the time this video is out, you'll already know how that ended. But for everyone who confidently predicted Spain and Uruguay to comfortably top this group, that still might happen, sure. But this is the World Cup. Weird things happen all the time. And suddenly the idea of Cabo Verde making it out of this group doesn't sound nearly as impossible as it did yesterday. Let's put it that way. At the end of the day, this was an incredible performance from Cabo Verde. They were up against one of the giants of international football. Maybe they didn't fully slay the giant, but they got about as close as you possibly can. Anyway, that's all from me for today. I'll be live for Senegal versus France, and I'm genuinely really excited for that match. If you haven't subscribed yet, feel free to do that. And if you want to join the watch-along, come through. If not, no worries at all. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're all having a great day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.